Good day, everyone, and welcome to an insightful interview about people analytics. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome today Anshu from Ericsson, who we've had the pleasure of having us on the digital stage before. And he's going to be joining us once again at our HR Digital Summit coming up very soon. But ahead of that, we wanted to give you a little bit more insight and some more background from the best practices at Ericsson, an award-winning organization, I must say, in multiple regards, and also a CMMI Level 5 organization as well. So with that, Anshu, let's let the audience learn a little bit more about you. Could you talk a little bit about your organization, your remit, and your particular role?
Sure, Rachel, and thanks for this opportunity and platform. And we as an organization have been associated with SSON for quite some years, and I guess it has been a really learning experience while we get an opportunity to share about what good things we are doing, but also to understand what great things are happening in this in market with peers and with vendor partners and others. So it's good. And I guess this is one of the exciting times for us where we have transitioned ourselves from so-called global operations into people services. And it's not about only the change in name from operations to services. I guess it's an effort and an attempt to change how we behave and how we react to our environment and to our customers. And as an organization, we are trying to see how do we adopt more to the evolving requirements from our stakeholders, as well as how do we focus on delivering the service or a result rather than an operations. So the whole focus is about moving from an output-bound delivery to an action-bound delivery. So what does that mean? It is not about the transaction is completed or not. It is about what was the intended result of that transaction, and has that result been achieved? So focusing more from a transaction-based approach to output-based approach. And when we say moving from operations to services, it is, as I said again, it is again aligning to the needs of the customer, not only from a process part, but also from a technology part, from a stakeholder part, and also to see how do we impact the overall business value in whatever we deliver. And when we talk about the organization, I guess digitalization and automation is a buzzword, but somehow we feel that it is not about only being the buzzword. It is also giving us an opportunity to get ourselves aligned and ready as a workforce, as well as an organization to meet the needs of the organization, the digital needs of the organization, and to see that the factors which are intrinsic or extrinsic to us, how they are changing our overall landscape. So I guess that would be the few things which I could mention in the beginning, which are impacting us or which are driving us for a change.
Well, thank you very much for that, and I think that's definitely some words of wisdom about how it's not just a name change, but certainly look differently at action delivery and what that means in terms of aligning with what is a definitely changing landscape as far as the needs of the customer goes. So today, one of the things that I wanted to focus on, Anshu, is the role of people analytics. So I feel like the analytics both available and how we use them has changed dramatically in the last 3 years. I'm wondering if you can share with our members what you would consider that some of the new insights that you can get from analytics, what's new and available to be captured, and how has that changed from the past?
Yep. So again, my view is that what we are calling analytics as of now, till about 10 years ago, till about 15 years ago, it was called data. Till about 7 years ago, it was called reporting. And over the last 2-3 years, it has been called analytics. So somehow I feel that the journey of analytics has been from data to reporting, and then I would say maturing into analytics. And the way I see is that organizations were always sitting on top of the data, which is a, I would say, a major pillar for this journey from data to analytics. But somehow either we were not capitalizing it, or in some cases we were capitalizing it, but it was too cumbersome to convert data into analytics. And what I see is things which have matured in the last years, in the last couple of years, is about behavior. When we go to a social media site, or when we go to a e-retailer site, we see the site is prompting us with inputs of what might be of interest to us. Or once we have bought something, or we have done a activity on a social media or a e-trailer site, then it gives us the results for our future actions. So I guess this kind of behavior from social media as well as e-media prompted users to see how they can imbibe this in their current ways of working. When we talk about a typical challenge like a cost of workers, or a pyramid, or headcount, or attrition, these were the areas of focus ever since we have started working, or ever we have started talking. But at some point in time, we as individuals were having a more reactive approach to this data element. When this data element moved to reporting, we started to see, can we derive patterns and behaviors? Now, when it moves towards analytics, we are seeing that the patterns and the behaviors can be derived, but it is more of predictive in nature. And now the journey is that how the predictions which were done 3 months or 2 quarters from now in the past, how they are showing the results, how these predictions and behaviors are comparing to actuals. Because then it gives a lot of courage, and it gives, I would say, a lot of clarity into, are the right decisions being taken, are the right data models being used. The other thing which is changing over the last couple of years is there are multiple sources of so-called data. It could be system of thoughts, it could be on-premise systems, it could be hosted systems, it could be specialty systems in our area of delivery. What is changing now is, now the data is not looked into silos. It is seen as one consolidated approach. Maybe we can call it as a human capital portfolio, where different elements of data are seen together and inferences are drawn. So it is not about attrition. It is about how hiring has a factor on attrition, how talent management has an impact on attrition, how compensation policies have an impact on attrition, how succession management has an impact on attrition. So attrition still remained one factor to be analyzed, but now it is being looked with multiple pair of lenses. And how this, I don't want to use this word, but for lack of a better word, how this big data analysis is helping us to put this missing pieces together to give more inferences. So people don't see attrition as one data point, but they see attrition as a combination of multiple data points, which are precursor to attrition, or which are an after effects of an attrition to an organization, maybe in terms of a cost of workforce, or maybe in terms of learning curve, or maybe in terms of ability to be much more productive, or productive much more sooner than joining. So that's how I would say. So if I try to sum up things which have changed in the past 3 years, the journey from data to report to analytics, ability to pull data from multiple sources and look it in a more of a portfolio view rather than a silo view, trying to preempt the behaviors of future, looking at the current data, and then looking at the output and then comparing it with the assumptions made to see what data element is behaving in what way. And last but not the least, I would say that the stakeholder experience or the stakeholder requirements have also changed. People are not looking at analytics, people are looking at the derivative of this analytics. How the output of this analytic can help to take meaningful business decisions, can help solve business problems, and in turn can definitely impact the overall efficiency and cost of the business case, which might be used to work on a particular analytics. So don't know if that makes sense, Rochel, but there are like a lot of multiple factors which goes into what is happening. There can't be a single answer which I can give that is it machine learning, is it analytics, it is human capital portfolio, or it is behavior. I guess it's a combination of both or multiple factors which are impacting the growth or the change in behavior in the last couple of years.
Yeah, Anshu, that definitely makes sense, and I like how you outlined the fact. I particularly enjoyed that we used to look at it as data as just pieces of information that we knew. Then we reported on it, which was very much a look back or a historical view or telling people what had happened. And now when we have these correlation points, not only can we do some predictions, but we can understand the context as it relates to other elements and then start to derive some business decisions from it. So that certainly makes sense. And that leads very well into my next question. You outlined a little bit of when you were talking about attrition, about how you can understand a bit more of using the data to understand a little more of what impacts attrition, what you can do as a result. Can you talk about examples of how you have used the analytics to improve or change your approach for talent acquisition and to positively influence talent retention?
Yeah. So when I see a typical life cycle of an employee and what makes retention a good factor or what contributes to retention are a couple of things. Am I being appreciative of what I do? Am I being rewarded fairly for what I do? Am I learning new things? Am I enhancing my skills? What is the growth path for me in an organization? And do I have a conducive environment in terms of an employee-manager relationship? So when you talk about the factors contributing to retention, then we talk about how analytics is helping. When you talk about things like how appraisals are done, how rewards are being administered, how work being mapped or productivity is captured, how we get visibility of training needs, how we ensure that the workforce or the employees are moving on towards the maturity journey in terms of they are doing different things or more so they are doing things differently. So now coming back to the question of how analytics can help us, I guess might be a couple of or a lot of other factors which impacts retention, which I might not have spoken. But the ones which I have spoken, organizations do have some insights in terms of ability to administer pay for performance, ability to administer learnings and trainings, ability to administer corrective actions when learnings are required, ability to administer or promote mobility options to different roles within the organization. And when you talk about how analytics can help, analytics is helping to derive a cause and effect behavior. Were the people who were top performers, are they being rewarded in a way so we have a pay for performance culture? The people who have been in organization for long, do we have insights of what role changes they have gone through or what job rotations they have gone through? When we talk about productivity and we compare productivity between A and B, are we comparing apples to apples? Do we ensure that when we compare the productivity between two colleagues or between two teams, how do we rationalize the complexity of the work which these individuals are doing or which these teams are doing? So I would say that there is a lot of data point which is available. But if we try to look at this data point as a reward data point or a learning data point or a talent management data point or a recruitment data point, they will not help us to tie the things together. When we talk about the factors impacting retention, if you ask me what is a linear business case, the linear based business case would be people who have been in organizations are given the right learning opportunities to ensure they are doing different things, they are doing things differently, and they are paid as per the performance to exhibit the right behaviors. And when this linear business case is tied with different data points from different streams, from different systems, definitely I see there is a lot of impact which can be generated. And yes, organizations are now trying to tie these data points, but somehow, I would not say that it makes a one-to-one correlation. Sometimes we have to assume some data points, sometimes we have to assume some behavior, because when we talk about people function or when we talk about human resources, I guess it's not binary, it's not 0 and 1. So data is always binary, 0 or 1, but then we have to see how we bring the softer impact or the softer aspects of human capital into this analysis. And then again, trying to reconcile your question, I guess, yes, it has improved the retention. It has improved the retention numbers. It has helped employees to chalk down their journey path with the organization. And it has also helped the organization to reward the right behaviors in terms of behaviors aligned to the overall growth of the organization. That's how I can sum it up for you, Rochelle.
Okay, thank you very much. And there were some great insights. I especially like the focus on about the cause and effect. So one thing I think where we migrate out of things from data to actually using it for analysis is to in fact understand and infer what is the outcome of what happens when we look at what's the cause, and then how do we want to change the effect, which all in fact does change people's behaviors. So on that note, I wanted to transition into one last area to cover today. I know that you guys have a number of leading practices. I'm happy that we have had the opportunity to share in your recognition of being a CMMI Level 5 recognized leading practice organization in your team. I'm wondering how you have brought in analytics and human capital understanding as a whole to look at skill gaps and to enhance the way that you build development plans for the employees.
Definitely, yeah. So when we talk about the work or the mandate which we have in our organization, the I would say people services or so-called global operations, which I said in the beginning that we are now moving from an transaction-based approach to an output-based approach in terms of whatever we are delivering, how it is impacting the end user, how it is impacting the customer, how it is impacting our stakeholders, and how it is impacting in enhancing the overall skill set. So what we see is that the domain skills are most critical in this journey. But when we analyzed it with factors, when we looked into surveys, when we talked to our stakeholders, we found out that along with domain skills, people need to have analytical skills. They need to have reporting skills and then maturing towards analytical skills. They need to have project management skills. They should be able to create a storyline and then turn it into a business case. They should be able to use the data visualization tools. They should be able to understand the cause and effect of any activity. They should be able to understand trend analysis. They should be able to work on new automation tools. They should be able to do something like a value stream mapping so that they can identify what activities are not relevant and to see what levers can be done to ensure that either these activities are removed or can be automated through an RPA or stuff like that. They should be able to appreciate what a cognitive agent can do. They should be able to appreciate what are the nuances available for NLP or machine learning. They should be able to appreciate that how value stream mapping can make a process much more linear so that we can look for adoption of RPAs or robotic processes. So what I'm trying to say is that these analytics help us, or these avenues help us to derive what are the opportunities of learning along all these areas. And yes, it is not possible for one person to learn everything. But then what we are aiming is that each one of us find its opportunity or avenue of learning, whether it is data analytics, whether it is visualization, whether it is storyline, whether it is VSM, whether it is RPA, whether it is chatbot or stuff like that, so that people on top of their domain skills, which are most critical, can add this as a wraperware, as a top layer to see how we can work towards the enhanced experience. Because at the end result, it might be a possibility that we require 10 different skill sets to get to where we are. But then we can't have those 10 skill sets into each one of us. Then we are saying that how 5 people or 6 people can have a team up together to have this 10 skill sets collectively, and then they can work in conjunction towards enhancing the efficiency or streamlining the process. And the skills which we are focusing right now primarily are data analytics and visualization skills, project management and RPA skills, cognitive and machine learning skills, as well as relooking at the processes through VSM to see how they can be much more streamlined, and how to be working in an agile way so that process can adapt to the ever-changing needs of the customer, and it should not always lead to a uniform output. The output can vary basis what the requirements are set in for. So that's how I think, Rochelle, that these analytics are helping us to bridge the skill set gap. And I will say it is not helping us to bridge the skill set gap only, which is a long-term mission, but it is helping us to identify what is the skill set gap which is missing, which needs to be developed.
Well, yeah, thank you for outlining that. And I have to say, Anshu, I think you're aware that we do an annual survey, and we survey our membership globally. And one of the questions we asked in this year's survey were, what would you consider to be the biggest gaps in your team as it exists now for what you need in your workforce? And what you have outlined there were all in the top 3 of what came back from our membership, our 160,000 members globally that participated in the survey. Those were listed because it was a lot of focus on problem solving, a lot on analytics, and a lot of, when you were terming understanding how to move things into action. I loved how you articulated taking something from a storyline to a business case. So it's not just understanding it, but it's also influencing other people and putting together the elements that would be in a business case format that are the skills necessary. I will have to say this is an exciting outcome, Anshu, because when you look at these types of skills and this type of direct detail, and you translate that into roles and job descriptions, this certainly makes for a very exciting career succession when people are thinking about doing much more than their primary foundation of domain, taking that domain expertise and bringing it into something that they can lead with the top layer of skills that you've outlined there. So that's an exciting career succession opportunity.
Good. Thank you.
So on that note, we've given you just a little bit of a teaser and introduction to so many amazing insights that Anshu has, but we spent this time today really to just give you a bit of an overview of what we're going to learn in further detail when we hopefully see all of you at the HR and Shared Services Digital Summit, in which Anshu will be joining us as one of our esteemed speaker faculty. So Anshu, I want to thank you for your time today and your continuous contributions to the industry with these leading practices. We look forward to the discussion in the Digital Summit, and we thank you so much for what you have shared with us today. It's given us a lot to think about, and I'm sure that will bring a lot of questions when the Digital Summit goes live in just a couple of weeks.
Good. Thanks, Rochelle. It's equally exciting for us to learn from the industry best practices and to see how we can all work together to evolve this community, both by learning as well as contributing. Thank you.
My pleasure, and I wish everyone a good day, and we'll see you at the HR and Shared Services Digital Summit. Thank you, everyone, and good day.